Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Wednesday. We are moving right along in our story about Beowulf and the monster Grendel. Yesterday we read parts 1 and 2 of the story and we met Grendel. We found out that he is a pretty fierce monster, that he is plaguing the people of the Danes, whose king is named Hrothgar. We found out that he's basically going into their mead hall every night and killing all of Hrothgar's warriors. We know that he has some sort of vendetta against Hrothgar and his people. We know that he isn't happy and he doesn't want anybody else to be happy. He doesn't want these warriors celebrating their victories. He doesn't want them rejoicing. So we met Grendel. We found out a few things about him, but we haven't met our hero. We still haven't seen Beowulf introduced to the story. So today is pretty cool because we're going to get to meet Beowulf today. We're going to see our hero introduced. We're going to learn about him and some of his achievements, and we're going to learn a little bit more about Anglo-Saxon warrior tradition today with the introduction of Beowulf. So let's get started. As always, we're going to do some vocabulary. The vocabulary assignment for today is pretty cool. It's going to allow you to be a little more creative. And we're going to do some reading, and then we're going to do some response to the reading. So that's pretty much the routine that we're developing. Hopefully, you can see how all that's working together to supplement the story. Okay. So I'm back in classwork. I'm back in your Google Classroom. And remember that you have to be on the classwork tab to see your assignments and be able to submit them. Okay. So I am under daily assignments. I'm under Wednesday, September 2nd, and you have a list, just like always. Like I said, hopefully we're getting a little bit more used to the routine now. For some reason, the number 1 is not there. I don't know what happened to the number 1, but this is the first assignment. This is number 1. I'll have to figure out my number situation there. All right. So in your list, remember that you need to pull up the 2 items that you're referring to the whole time you're working. One of those, if I'm going to scroll up here to my materials, which is under the section Beowulf, one of those is the story itself. So I'm going to click on this online version. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the story. Okay. And then the other thing that I'm going to need is the study guide, because I'm going to be doing my work from there. I'm going to be referring to that. So I'm going to pull up the study guide so I can refer to it. I'm going to come over here and open it in another window so that I don't have it over my Google Classroom covering that up. Okay, so I've got my actual translation of the story itself. I've got my study guide open so I can go back and forth between all these tabs. So I'm going to come back down to my assignments so I know what I'm doing. All right, so this vocab assignment that I mentioned to you, I'm still using the same vocabulary that I've been working with, which is our first set of vocabulary from Beowulf. Remember that it is on page 16 of your study guide. So this is the same list of vocab that I've been working with already. So far, we have written sentences using the vocabulary. We did some pictures yesterday, drew some pictures using the vocab. And so I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to write, or you're going to write, a short story, okay, about a hero and a villain using the vocabulary words. Now, don't moan and groan. I know that's what you're doing. It is not going to have to be a long story. In fact, when I say short story, I'm talking like 2 paragraphs, okay, 2 to 3 paragraphs. If you want to make it longer, if you just get really, really inspired and you go on and on with your story, that's great. That is perfectly fine. But if you want to stick to the minimum and just make it 2 to 3 paragraphs, that's okay too. All right. So I'm going to write a short story about a hero and a villain. Let me click over here. This is something that you're not going to have unless you're in the classroom, but I'm going to show you the actual assignment. So here's my actual assignment. Write a 1 to 2 paragraph short story about a hero and a villain. Can be real or made up. Okay. So that means that I can use Spider-Man and Green Goblin, or I can use Superman and Lex Luthor, or I can just make up my hero and villain. I can just completely make them up, okay? You're going to make sure to use all the vocab words from Beowulf Set 1, which are the words over here on page 16, okay? And underline your words in your story if you're able to do that. Well, you should be able to do that if you're handwriting, if you're writing it on notebook paper, or if you're doing it on the computer in Google Docs, you can still underline. So underline your vocab words that you're used, so as I'm looking at your story, I can see that you used all the words. So basically, that's the only criteria. Okay, you're going to write a very short story. Again, your hero and villain can be real or made up, but you just have to use the vocab words. You can talk about Beowulf if you want. You can talk about Beowulf and Grendel, or it might be easier for you to use somebody you're already more familiar with. So that's our vocab assignment for today. Okay, write the little short story. We may even have an opportunity to kind of share those when we get back in the classroom. We'll see about that. Okay, then I'm going to go straight to the reading. So today we're going to read Beowulf parts 3 through 5. I know we only read 2 parts yesterday. It's still not going to be that long. And basically, parts 3 through 5 are really just our introduction to the character Beowulf and what he's doing. So we read parts 1 and 2 yesterday. We met Grendel. We saw what Grendel was doing, coming to the mead hall, killing Hrothgar's warriors. So now, in part 3, we actually go across the ocean, because remember that the Danes are not even Beowulf's people. He is from the land of the Geats. So he is in a whole other country, basically. But he hears about everything. It says, in his far off home, Beowulf, and it goes on to talk about how he heard about Grendel and what Grendel was doing to the people of the Danes. And so we're going to see how he is motivated to go help them. And we're going to see why he feels motivated to go help them. So I'm going to let you wait and read that part. But we're going to basically read part 3, which is very, very short, okay? And then part 4 is when he actually arrives at the land of the Danes. You have a little summary in between here, okay? Some of the things in italics in the story are just a little portion that they've summed up for you instead of making you read the whole thing. So you're welcome about that part. So we're going to read part 4, which is where he actually arrives. He comes in to see Hrothgar. He talks about how he knows Hrothgar, or how Hrothgar knows his people. Hrothgar actually knew Beowulf's father, so that's a little hint for you there. Okay, and then we're going to come down and read part 5 as the last part, which is also very, very short. Okay, part 5 is the last part we're going to read, and we see Hrothgar's response to Beowulf and how he greets him, how he responds to Beowulf coming in to help him. So parts 3 through 5 are going to be the reading assignment. Now we're not getting into any of the battle yet or anything like that. This is just strictly an introduction to Beowulf, our hero for the story. Okay? So then you're going to respond to that. You're going to respond to that introduction. So I'm going to come back to the study guide, and I have 2 assignments, kind of like yesterday. All right? I'm just going to answer one question about Beowulf, and that is question number 2. So if I go back to my study guide, I'm going to scroll down to page 18 again. I actually answered question number 3 yesterday, so we're not really going in order. We're just jumping around the study guide, which is okay. And today I'm going to answer question number 2, okay? And this is about the relationship between Hrothgar and Beowulf, how they might have known each other, how they might have heard of each other, known about each other. So you're going to answer question number 2. And then the last assignment that I have for today is this literature groups assignment. Now, I realize that you're not going to be able to do this in a group. You're not even in the classroom with other students right now, but that's okay. Even in the classroom, we couldn't get in a group because of our social distancing, but you're still going to just respond to the prompt. And so this is on page 19. Remember that these assignments under the questions don't really have numbers. They just have titles. So you're looking at this assignment that is titled Literature Groups. And let's just read it. It says, some readers view Beowulf as a boastful glory seeker. Other readers view him as a noble, selfless man. So obviously you're not going to be able to discuss this with a group of classmates unless you're doing it in a group chat or something like that. But Here's what I want you to do is this last sentence right here. Share your opinion, which just share it on your assignment. Give your opinion and support it with evidence from the poem. So basically, you're going to tell what you think. Do you think he's a boastful glory seeker, or do you think he's a noble, selfless man who just wants to help? And then explain to me why you think that. What are you reading in the text that causes you to think whatever your opinion is? Okay, so just back it up with evidence from the story. All right, and that's it for today. So then what you're going to turn in to this assignment is your short story that you wrote, a couple of paragraphs, short story, your answer to question number 2, and then your response, your opinion about whether you think, Beowulf is just boastful or is he really noble and wants to help? What do you think and why do you think it? So those are the 3 things that you're going to turn in to the assignment. Now remember, again, I've said this many times because I just don't want you to forget or get confused. You can either type all this up on a Google Docs assignment, which in my opinion, if you're able to do that, would be the best way to do it. But you can also just write it on notebook paper, take a picture of it, and submit it to the assignment. If you do that, please write in pen so that I'll be able to read it easily. Today's assignment is focusing on the hero himself and our introduction to him and what we think about him. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we get back in the classroom. But for today, just do these assignments and submit them to your Google Classroom.